Hi everyone, I'm Miss Del Rio, and today we're going to walk through a close reading, a very short but powerful poem by Emily Dickinson. It is titled Hope is a Thing with Feathers. I'll model steps that you're going to take and then explain how you can apply them to your own close readings. The goal here is to not just understand what Dickinson is saying, but how she is saying it and why it matters. All right, now let's go ahead and read the poem as a whole. But before I do that, as I read, I'm paying close attention to the poem structure, its tone, and any reoccurring images or language that stands out just to get a general feel for its voice or the rhythm before I begin breaking down each stanza. All right, so here I go. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings a tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and the soar must be a storm that could abash this little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and in the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. All right, let's go ahead and begin with stanza number one. You'll see a lot of markings here, so I'm going to go through all of these and I'm going to explain to you and dive deep into what they all mean. All right, so hope is the thing with feathers. Now, notice that the very first word is already in quotations. This is already important and it's going to possibly be key to figuring out what this poem could possibly be about or even lead to a theme. Hope is a thing that with feathers, right in line number one. Hope is metaphorically described as a bird. So I went ahead and underlined it and said that the feathers could equal a bird, and therefore hope. It all is going to tie in together. Line two, let's go. That perches in a soul. Perches means that something lives. It is sitting there. It is settling. Um, and in this case, it's referring to settling in your soul, okay, within you. And sings the tune without words. It is continuously singing. So this bird is constantly singing and humming to a tune, even if it's not something that is spoken, because it says a tune without words. No words, but it's constantly there and never stops at all. Again, reiterating that it is something that is constantly and consistently in there within you. All right. Dickinson is comparing hope here to a bird that lives in your soul and is consistently and constantly singing. The metaphor of the bird with feathers perching and the soul suggests that hope is gentle and alive and it's ever present. It sings without words, meaning that it's persistent and it's nonverbal. Okay, without words. This is kind of serene but uplifting. Again, hope is always there. It's always in the back of your mind. It's always in the back of your soul when you're doing something or going through something. Obviously, there is an internal natural force that is carried here in silence, of course. All right, moving on to stanza two. Stanza two, and the sweetest in the gale is heard. The gale is a strong wind, like when they say hurricane force gale winds. So we know that. All right, let's go into the next two lines. And sore must be the storm that could have bashed this little bird. Again, these two lines have to be read together, and they reassure that there is a storm, maybe not a literal storm, but metaphorically a storm that could be considered a rough patch in your life, sometime when you have struggled and it's been so big that it has rattled you inside, because it says it could have bashed this little bird. It rattled this bird. A major life altering event. But then we go back to sweetest. Sweetest is right at the beginning. When do we most need hope, right? It is sweetest when we are going through that life altering obstacle or that storm, reiterating that hope is most needed during these rough times and when they arise. All right, that kept us so many warm. Warm goes back to hope. Think about it. It is what keeps us optimistic, encouraged, looking for promise, right? So definitely we are getting somewhere here. All right, let's move on. Stanza number 3. I've heard it in the chillest land and the strangest sea. There is a tone shift here. She's already talking about herself. I've heard it, right? I have gone through these struggles, right? So she is definitely explaining to us that she has felt this. Um, she has experienced hope in the coldest, right here, chillest, distant, strangest places. Okay. No matter the challenge or the hardship, it is a simple hurdle. Even if it is the simplest hurdle, it is still a challenge. So it's telling you that no matter the challenge, it asked a crumb of me. The idea that hope is free, it doesn't ask for anything in return. That right there is simply just hits home. Okay, moving on. All right, so we have a lot of figurative devices here with the language choices, imagery, and of course that reassurance. Hope is a thing with feathers. So let's zoom into that. It talks obviously about hope, not a person or a feeling, but a bird. It gives hope the mobility, purchase in the soul, like it sits quietly within us, internal. It's almost spiritual, okay? It sings a tune without words. It's unspoken. Hope is unspoken, yet it is very powerful, okay? So we have to always listen to that within us and inside of us, and when we will hear it. Imagery, gale, the word gale, storm, chillest, strangest, all of these words dive into that hardship. If you think about the connotative state of these words, they kind of are those type of words that just make things feel a little bit more hard. Finally, we end with the word never ask a crumb. Okay, this is that reassurance that hope is not asking anything. It's free. Doesn't want anything from us. There's nothing there. It is self-sustaining. All right, let's talk about the tone. Definitely gentle but cherished tone, right? One of gratitude, and definitely resilience. Definitely that resilience aspect is there. Okay, let's move on. All right. So as we move through each of these stanza, we can see how Dickinson develops hope as a bird, persistent, selfless, and comforting force that lives within us, inside of us. The elements that were highlighted in our close read, metaphor, imagery, tone, even the diction. One might interpret that Dickinson is presenting hope as a constant generous presence in the human spirit, using an extended metaphor of the bird to show the quiet strength and selflessness. Even in life's darkest moments, hope persists, and we are definitely needing of it when we are going through those life altering events. So, completing a close read is really important. It helps us unlock not just what the poem says, but how it is saying it and what is behind it. Thank you so much for taking the time to follow me through this close read of this wonderful poem. Have a wonderful day.